CIO News. I'm Madhuri Pednekar, your host for the broadcast and conference producer at CIO News. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website cionews.co.in and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. This is an exclusive fireside chat powered by Avaya on transformation through customer experience. Businesses are built by experience they provide, and every day millions of those experiences are delivered by Avaya. Avaya is shaping what's the future of work with innovation and partnership that delivers game-changing business benefits. Let's dive in and let me introduce my guest for today, Mr. Vinod Natarajan. He's Chief Business Officer at NGBPS Limited. He has 17 years of experience in helping clients choose right products and solutions to meet individual and organization objectives, spanning multiple industries and roles. He has worked with companies like Forrester as a senior manager working on digital transformation and customer experience management initiative. He's passionate about the role of technology in driving brands to achieve business objectives. Prescriptive selling has defined his career, right from the time he was a rookie financial consultant to this day where he's providing cutting edge technique products and services. As a Chief Business Officer at NGBPS Limited, he is responsible to grow three lines of businesses. And through these three businesses lines, Net Data Vault, AI Cyberwatch, and My Cloud Bazaar, he's focused on helping established and emerging firms move to the needle on digital transformation and prepare a digital first world. NGBPS Limited has experience in providing diverse IT services. Currently, they provide cloud hosting, DRM backup, IT audit, cybersecurity services, and simplified software licensing to various clients, including MSMEs. Pleasure to have you, Mr. Vinod, today with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me as well to be with you guys and discuss some very pertinent topics.
Along with me, we
Thanks for
also
the wonderful introduction also.
have Mr. Adarsh Kaul. He is India Marketing Lead with Avaya and also a moderator for today's session.
Hi,
He's
Adarsh.
Hey, Vinod. Thank you, Madhuri. I think we'll take it up from there. Thanks again, and it's really an honor, Vinod, having you across on board and actually having this little chat. So, I'd ideally like to start across with NGBPS, and when you say Chief Business Officer, what's primarily a role? I know Madhuri, of course, talked about it explicitly, but it'll be good if you can probably give us and the audience an understanding of what do you exactly look at and how do you look at NGBPS and what should the market perceive NGBPS to be?
Right. So, as Madhuri correctly mentioned, we primarily are into three lines of business currently, and the first one, of course, is Net Data Vault. So Net Data Vault is our own data center. It's in the Delhi NCR region. So we provide cloud hosting services to enterprise customers as well as retail emerging businesses. Uh, the uh, the second business line, which I think is really very exciting and where there's a lot of action and traction coming in, is the AI Cyberwatch, which is our cybersecurity business's brand. Um, the whole goal of establishing AI Cyberwatch was essentially to say that we want to be providing cutting edge cybersecurity managed services at an affordable price point, to a larger base of customers. One of the things that we've seen is if cybersecurity kind of becomes, um, everyone talks about it, everyone probably wants it, but when it comes to the price point perspective, that's where the stumbling block the first stumbling block actually occurs. So our aim is to kind of democratize access to cutting edge cybersecurity services with AI Cyberwatch. And the third line of business is My Cloud Bazaar. My Cloud Bazaar is a NASCOM and the government of India incubated sort of startup. We were recognized among the top 100 startups by the program which happened in 2018. Um, again, the aim over there is really to provide simplified SaaS solutions to businesses. Quickly, if I have to talk about it, essentially what happens is, as a small business, you need probably a CRM tool, you need, let's say, a emailing tool, you need HRMS. Now, what happens today is most of the people go for all of these solutions, but in through disparate vendors. So I will go, let's say, maybe I come to Avaya, and then we look for the conferencing and meeting solutions. I go down to Google to get my email solution. Then I go, let's say, to a something like a CRM Babu, or any of the other CRM tools that are there to pick up my CRM license, or it could be a Zoho CRM, whatever. And so it adds a lot of complexity and trouble to the small businesses, right? These guys are probably wanting 2 or 3 licenses at max, but if you've got to go to each vendor separately to procure all of these things, it becomes a challenge. What we are trying to do with my cloud bazaar is get everything on the same platform, so that as a business, you just need to come to our platform, pick up all that you want, and there's a single billing, and you're able to kind of go away with getting everything in a single place. As it becomes a single point of contact, it just basically eases challenges for the small businesses. So these are the 3 lines of business that we operate in, and we are looking at growing these. Now, with respect to my role, of course, as chief business officer, it's driving revenue becomes the core aspect of it. At the same time, I'm also looking at people and operations as well, to kind of figure out, identifying the right mix of talent and putting in place the appropriate processes, so that we can deliver a superior customer experience when it comes down to all our prospects as well as customers.
Wow, it's absolutely lovely, man. I completely love the way you summarize it up, and I completely believe this thing that your inputs are gonna value add across from a perspective of what CIO News as well as Avaya is looking at. So, I'm gonna get straight into this. What you mentioned was tons of customers at the end of the day. You talked MSMEs, you talked about customer experience, you talked about, you know, security as a service, you talked about, handling the entire IT technical backending, probably acting as a consultant plus a partner across from MSMEs. So this would mean tons of customers. So how are you managing your customer experience, and specifically for NGBPS? And the key question out here is that how are you actually using what you prescribe? So when I say what you prescribe, I'm talking about the digital channels across from a perspective of handling customer experience for NGBPS.
Yeah. So, in fact, that's it's a very interesting question, and very pertinent again. So, we obviously are kind of sorry. So, yeah, I mean, from moving from a traditional systems, or an IT services provider, to becoming much more customer focused, that's been a fairly interesting journey. And we've kind of obviously, in some ways, we were already ahead of the curve in terms of the way we used to provide our services. So when you look at, for example, our onboarding services with respect to the data center or the cloud hosting business, that is completely digital. There is no element of any physical interaction whatsoever. So right from the time someone comes onto our website, picks up a particular configuration, pays for it, and right down to the element of provisioning and helping them set up, everything happens in a digital environment with, of course, telephonic support. That is something, is a that is one of the points, in fact, which I believe I will never let go of. We see a lot of people who want to kind of only remain on chat, or they just raise a ticket and we will help you. Somewhere I believe that's not ideally suited, especially from an Indian segment or an Indian market customer mindset perspective. And I believe, of course, we have the ticketing system, the chat support, and all of these things are there. But we would like to kind of still, be able to tell customers that, hey, if at all you're in a soup at some point of time and you need instant help, we're just a phone call away, right? So that reassurance I've seen goes a long way in making customers feel valued as well as comfortable, especially with the MSME or the SMB guys. They often need a lot more hand holding and support. So we kind of pride ourselves on doing that right. Um, Coming to improving the CX, there's a lot of things, of course, that we're trying to do. I mean, I wouldn't say that our website flows are perfect, or the whole customer journey is absolutely seamless. We kind of, trying to do some in a rudimentary fashion. Of course, we are not kind of going in a very sophisticated manner, but in a rudimentary fashion, doing a few journey maps to understand the customer journey through our whole purchase journey, and try and understand where there are challenges. Talk to some of our existing customers, and try and understand where is it that they found some challenges, and what is it that you want us to kind of improve. Pick all of those pieces, and then it's an iterative journey. Of course, it's not like a one day or one fine project that, okay, we complete this project and we are all gone. We kind of try and follow an iterative approach, keep taking inputs, keep improving as we progress. So that's what we kind of focusing on.
Hey, nice. You know what? That was actually music to my ears, because when you say voice, completely becomes my domain. When I say my domain, Avaya's domain at least,
Yeah.
because that's something that's very close to our heart. Having said that, you kind of took a portion away from my next question. Well, you mentioned that you actually work across with your customers and take feedback and then incorporate it across from a customer experience perspective, from a journey mapping. Having said that, do you have a prescriptive mode available for NGBPS in which you actually measure customer happiness? Is there a prescriptive tool or a model which is available which you use across for doing a complete customer experience mapping? That's one. And of course, the other perspective that I had is that what would you recommend across down to leaders such as yours across in other organizations to look at customer experience, and how should they approach customer experience from a perspective of looking at what their businesses are doing, whether they're doing correct or not? As you said that you take feedbacks, but is there like a tool that's available? Do you do surveys? Do you do NPS? Or those NPSs are kind of targeted across from a perspective of an app which gets you into this thing? So I'd like to understand that part of it that's possible across for you to share out. And what would you recommend across for other CX heads such as you?
Yeah. So uh, at the moment, it's more of a we have we're not doing a formal NPS or a CX index or some sort of a CX score per se. It's more of we have our own questionnaires, and we've kind of designed our own feedback mechanisms. It's more one to one in nature, where we send across, we speak to the customer, send across the questions, and collect their responses, and collate, and then identify what needs to be done, etc. Having said that, I think, given the current phase of our journey, we are still probably able to sustain this. But as we move forward, we will certainly look at adopting more formal mechanisms. And I would say, for before I kind of hopped on to the journey at the entrepreneurial journey with NGBPS, I spent a lot of time at Forrester, and customer experience was one of the key aspects that we kept talking about. So I would say, an organization needs to choose what you want. Whether is it a specific in-house sort of metric that you want to develop, whether it is a globally accepted NPS, or is it some other parameter. Now then there are also kind of sometimes for certain organizations there are certain regulatory requirements, or prescriptions, where they will need to adopt a particular methodology, etc. But one thing I would like to kind of emphasize on is, uh, you should not kind of get lost in the metrics part of it. What I have often seen is people just keep harping on, oh, my NPS score is 9, oh, my NPS score is 10. Now let me just tell you a very simple example. Oftentimes we kind of reach out to some of these customer service, folks. I don't want to name a brand right now and yeah, say anything about a brand, but you finish the call, and what does that customer service executive tell you? Sir, if you like my call or if you like my service, please rate me 9 or 10. Now, right? So first of all, you have a lot of people who are not even going to answer your survey. Next, most of the people who are answering are just kind of going to get influenced by what the person at the other end said. And it's I think somewhere slightly an Indian mindset saying, oh, let's be nice to these people and we'll just, and if I do not have an unpleasant experience, I'm predisposed to saying, oh, it's been good or it's been great. But the underlying points are actually being missed, right? You're not actually capturing what you need to capture. And that's really what happens when you're impressing on your staff and your teams to just chase a number. So I would kind of say that it's not about chasing that number. Of course, you need a metric to kind of measure yourself and keep looking at how you improve. But more importantly, also try and look at the story behind the number and try and act on it to make a genuine difference in your customers' lives. So that would be my point that I would think of.
Nice. So I guess be genuine is exactly what you're trying to propone across, and I completely believe you on that front. Absolutely, absolutely. You kind of nailed it across out there. There's no point in getting that 8 out of 10 or that 9 out of 10. I think what matters is actually helping the customer sort it out. So yeah, absolutely, beautifully summarized. Um, this next one that I have across is absolutely, and I think this goes completely up your alley. CX has primarily evolved across over the time frame, and now having been in the industry now for a long time from an Avaya perspective at least, we know this thing that the movement to cloud is completely bringing different paradigms. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think that CX moving to cloud or the cloud adoption across from a perspective of businesses is going to help across in the understanding of the CX space or in the growth of the CX space? What's your thoughts across on that?
Well, I think yeah, there's it's a really interesting phenomenon because one is the CX, the CX practice in itself is kind of maturing. From an India perspective, I would say that we are very far away from getting to a point where we could say that CX is it's being practiced in a very holistic manner. So I think the whole the COVID disruption also in some ways helps because with more and more businesses being forced to move completely digital, a lot of things that you couldn't measure earlier now are probably going to be easier to measure. And with effect, you're also going to be able to kind of integrate those measurements or those learnings from these new the newly digitized areas into understanding your customer better, into understanding your customer journey better, and thus helping improve your overall customer experience. Now if you and again, I think from a pure perspective of what happens to the customer experience practice because of the cloud movement, I would say from my understanding, um, it's kind of similar to what I was talking about from the cybersecurity perspective. The earlier, if you wanted to do an NPS program, you typically had to go to a BCG, you would go to a Accenture, and you would have to spend like at least 7 to 8 million or 10 million rupees, a crore of rupees to do that program once a year, right? Now there are organizations like yourself. There are a lot of Indian startups. I mean, of course, Microsoft acquired Cloudcherry. Then there are a lot of I'm just naming some brand because I've been in the space a lot. But all of these guys are now able to, as there was Gekolist, I remember there was another Indian entity. All of these guys are able to provide serve the CX on a SaaS model. So that is making it extremely cost effective and very approachable and doable for organizations of most scale and size. So I would assume that over the next couple of years, a lot of the SMEs or MSMEs would be able to kind of make this transition towards actually measuring customer experiences and kind of optimizing that. So that's my belief. Let's see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah. I hope your belief is absolutely the belief of the industry, because that's going to benefit at least us. I probably get some hike in my salary if that all comes to us. Anyway, I'm going to come down to my next one. And thanks, Vinod. By the way, your perspectives have actually been enlightening from a perspective of what I think as well. Having said that, I'll come back to your customer base. While you clearly said this thing that you got a very strong one-to-one, are there other touch points that you capture across in the customer journey? For example, the website, the chatbot, the chat per se. Is there elements of WhatsApp integration done in that? Is there elements of other touch points from a complete journey perspective that you have, especially in the segment that you're operating across? And I clearly see the MSME and SME being highlighted across by you. So how do you capture those touch points, and what's the current mechanism that you do across? And is there any future roadmap across from a perspective of you know getting those touch points completely on an analysis basis, or probably using AI? Because I mentioned you talking about how you use AI from on a SOC perspective, but at the end of the day, how would you look at AI coming and playing a role across out there from a customer touch points?
Well, absolutely. I think that is very essential. Now, if you look at our the first two lines of business, which is Net Data Vault, which is the cloud hosting, and the cybersecurity services part, uh, I would um, I would say that those are still a far more involved sort of engagement decisions, right? Especially if you're an enterprise customer. See, the guy who's coming to buy a server, which is maybe 5 or 10,000 bucks a month, that's more of a uninvolved or a less involved purchase. They think that our price points and our services are great, and they come and they do the purchase and move on. And now for that segment, it is really just the journey maps and understanding from a digital touchpoint perspective as to how are things moving and what is it that we need to kind of improve, or what is it that we need to get better. But when it comes to enterprise decisions, now what happens in, let's say, in the cybersecurity domain is it's not such a it's not like a click and purchase sort of aspect. You want to know as to, hey, what's my problem, or what is the specific solution that you are planning to bring in, how will you adapt it to my needs. And so there's a lot of discussion that goes on. There's a lot of the discovery phase is not completely digital or not purely online. Yeah, they'll come and search for saying vulnerability assessments and penetration testing services. So they might land up on our website and see that we do provide those services. But there's a lot of nitty gritty which goes into delivering a project like that, or in fact even scoping out the requirements. So there is a lot of still an element of physical, or I mean, now it's virtual interaction, but the one-to-one interactions are needed, right? I mean, we get the sales leads, and then we get into a conversation, and then the sales cycle kind of pans out. The My Cloud Bazaar is a business where all these aspects that you spoke of, the chatbot integrations, WhatsApp integration, and bringing in a lot of AI. That is where we would focus, and kind of as a target for 2022, we would want to bring in those aspects in there, because that is where I am wanting to kind of make it a lot more of a come, choose, click, buy, and go sort of experience. So that needs to be a lot more seamless. I mean, that is the place where I would not want you to come and reach out to me, right? Simply because I'm able to provide all your, or I'm able to provide all your answers on the various touch points that I have, so that you don't have to spend time in waiting for an agent, or waiting for someone from my team to come and help you. So that's where I would look at doing a lot more of these the emerging tech integration, the AIs, and WhatsApp, etc. That sort of piece.
Hey, interesting. Absolutely. So what you're saying is kind of create up a complete marketplace where the marketplace is completely AI and data driven across from a perspective of attracting, and then finally delivering across the final sale from a
Yeah.
product perspective that you have. Great, absolutely wonderful. Yeah, lovely. This kind of get me across to my last one, Vinod. I'm sorry, I don't want to make it a long, boring session, but I'd like to understand uh, the COVID boom barrier that came across in our lives. How did NGPPS cope up with it? So how did you move? What did you do? How did you completely get? And I'm sure that you would have also gone into a work from home model. So what were the essential first things that came into mind from a tech perspective right now? Getting the entire organization working from home.
It's yeah, that's a very interesting question. Now, if you look at it as a data center business, right? For us, there was no way that my person was could sit at home and work. My data center is staffed 24/7. People have to be in the data center, because
Mhm.
it's mission critical. So the initial couple of weeks did become a massive challenge, because it was just came out of the blue, right? I mean, nobody knew that okay, we were going to get into a situation like this. So we had to you know some coping mechanisms which were, I wouldn't say something which is great, or very smooth to talk about, but we had to make certain changes to ensure that, hey, listen, my people need to come to work, or they probably need to be, we actually created some facilities within the data center for some of the employees to kind of, bunk up and hang on there for some time, so that you don't have the challenge of going back home or whatever. That was the initial couple of weeks. And until then, the corporate staff was all like, okay, you stay put wherever you are, and we'll kind of start working on it. But I think what helps us is our DNA of being an organization which helps in digitally transforming others. We were able to adopt a lot of things faster, stuff like VDI, or completely going the Google Meet, or the Zoom meetings, or that mode wasn't that difficult for us. uh, there's another aspect, of course, of this whole completely transitioning to work from home, is this whole employee productivity and monitoring employee productivity part. Now, I mean, honestly, until now, we've not kind of put a lot of emphasis on that aspect of it. Primarily because I think we are a close knit organization, and we kind of have inherent trust in our employees to kind of do what they're assigned to do, and that's the culture that we like to kind of foster at our end. So we've not kind of gotten into that measuring, maybe how many hours you're spending at your desk, or those kind of aspects. We've not gotten into it, although we know that there are a lot of such tools available. My focus still remains on the productivity or the output part of things. When I say that, okay, I need the XYZ done, uh, we better ensure that we get these things done. So that's the focus area for us. We kind of work on that aspect. And as far as the kind of, I mean the way we see it, of course this is going to continue, and the work from home is not kind of, while of course we are obviously started by office, and people are coming back into the office, it's going to remain a hybrid model for probably the foreseeable future. So maybe at that point of time, maybe as the organization grows, and as time goes by, we might look at a certain additional aspects of um, workforce monitoring, performance optimization models, etc. But at the current moment, I think we're fairly well adjusted to this whole work from home scenarios, with the bundles of tools that are brought together by, even say, organizations like yours. We've been managing fairly well, but of course, there is no cure for the boredom of working alone at a home, and the various, like we've all seen those funny videos of work from home gaps. The mixer suddenly going on, and then somebody running across your screen. Those, yeah. But I think it's a lighter side of life, and we kind of all adapted to it, and things are going on that way.
Hey, thanks, Vinod. Yeah, seriously, thank you for that. That really, really helped across, and that kind completely gives us a insight into how you've been working across, and I think your inputs were absolutely bang on across a lot of things. The forester definitely came out in you. That's what I would like to point out here, honestly. Having said that, with that, I completely move it to Madhuri. Thank you again for doing this for us. Seriously, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and
Same
I'm
here,
sure
Adarsh.
I'm sure the CIO news would benefit across from this big time. So would I actually. Madhuri, all over to you. Thanks, Vinod, again.
Thanks,
Thank
Adarsh.
you. Thank you so much, Vinod. Some really, really wonderful insights. And thank you, Adarsh, for moderating the entire session. So thank you once again for being a part of this entire session today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me over. Look forward. Thanks.